Have you ever found that the same qualities that others praise you for can be quietly exhausting you? Like maybe you're the strong, independent one, but you often find yourself feeling just tired and lonely. Or maybe you're someone with a really big heart. You're always looking out for other people. But in your quiet moments, you notice yourself feeling drained and overextended. Maybe you're someone who pays copious attention to detail and you like everything to be perfect, but it's hard for you to sometimes get started with something new because you're not sure if it's going to be just right. Or maybe you're someone who feels like you always have to be the life of the party and bring everyone up. But what happens when you're not in a happy place or your mood is off and you start to question if you would be good company for other people? See, oftentimes our strengths really become our struggle. We get locked in, and these same strengths can start to mask our vulnerabilities and come at a real cost. So, I want to talk about how we can turn that around and how we can start to find the balance that might supply the hidden happiness that we're looking for. Let's get started. Now, if you're listening and you think I'm going to ask you to surrender your strength, don't worry, I'm not going to do that. Your strength is probably a real gift to you. I imagine it serves you in many ways and has over time. But I do want to talk about what it looks like when that strength starts to dominate and cause problems in your life. So let's talk about where our strengths come from. Sometimes our strengths feel very innate. It feels like maybe it's even in our DNA, and perhaps it is. But oftentimes our strengths also are adaptations that come as a result of our upbringing. Let's imagine that your strength is your empathy, your compassion for others. Perhaps you were raised in an environment where this was something that was modeled and you were taught by others that it is really important to take care of others, to look out for other people. Or maybe you were raised in an environment where there were others around you that needed care, and you learned early on that part of your survival depended on being able to look out for other people, to make sure that other people were okay. Whatever situation led to that strong suit being developed, oftentimes we as an adult develop a very dependent relationship on that strength. We even become fearful that if we are to not practice that strength, that we might suffer a consequence that was familiar to us early on in our lives. So think about your strength for a moment. Was there something that occurred early on in your life that taught you that you needed to be that way? What was the consequence that existed if you were not going to practice that strength? Why is this important? Because we may be unconsciously haunted by that consequence as an adult. And this might lead us, again, to be overextending ourselves, to be exhibiting that strength excessively, and to have that strength of empathy become more of a compulsive and controlling reflex rather than just a part of our skill set, a part of our personality. It can become our whole personality. And as you imagine, if we're always in motion, taking care of others and applying our resources externally to other people, what are we leaving for ourselves? The counter skill of self-care is probably not getting developed very much. And you often find this with caregivers where they are depleted, they're drained, they're exhausted because they are focusing all of their energy and resources elsewhere. Okay, another problem that we can see when a strength starts to dominate is that our sense of self-worth becomes intermingled into the strength, and we can develop a very conditional relationship with ourselves. What that means is that when we are in motion, actually doing something that shows this strength, we might feel really good. We might feel like good about ourselves. But then if we kind of take our foot off the gas and we do something that isn't in line with the strength, we might start to feel insecure. So in the example of empathy, if you do start to take time for yourself, try to rest, try to do things that nourish you, you might start to have some self-talk that says, "You're being a little lazy today, aren't you?" Or, "Why are you so selfish?" See, sometimes we are not very nice to ourselves in those moments where we're not exhibiting our strengths because we feel like this is who we are at our best. And if we're not behaving that way, then we're not likable, we're not lovable. And that might, again, connect with messaging that we got earlier on in our lives or it might just be part of how we have developed as individuals. It could also include some cultural messages that we've gotten in our homes, schools, or communities. Another problem that can exist when we over-rely on our strengths is that we just get robbed of our balance, of the wholeness that we deserve to experience. See, oftentimes the counter skill to our strength is something that is also very important. So in the example of empathy, the counter skill, which is being able to care for the self, that's super important. Think about the strength of independence. There is a counter skill, which is about being able to allow others to support you, being able to depend on others, to collaborate with others, to experience partnership, to be part of a team, to surrender control. These are also very important skills. Think about perfectionism as a strength, which get things done, but the counter skill is to be able to do things imperfectly, to be able to have a beginner's mind and to experience growth and progress and to feel okay when things aren't perfect. Think about the strength of being the life of the party, being that exuberant, upbeat, uplifting presence. But it's also important to be able to be real, to be raw, to be open and vulnerable, and to show other aspects of your moods and personalities to allow people in. Think about the strength of being strong, of being calm under pressure. But think about the counter skill of being able to express emotion and to be able to process what's going on and not suppress it. See, so many of our strengths serve a purpose and they have their place. But if we're not developing the counter skills, then we do get off balance, and that can be very depleting, and it can also be destabilizing for us over time. So loving ourselves is about loving the whole self, not just the strength, but also taking the time and attention to nurture the underdeveloped part. That's how we become whole and integrated inside. That actually is one of the big keys to holistic wellness. Finally, I want to talk about how social identity plays into all this. So often our strength is something that others recognize, and it does become our experience of who we are. We get praised for it. Maybe you get awards and promotions for it. But you know what? It's not all that you are. Sometimes it's just the cover sheet, and there's so much more to who you are. There always has been. And the thing is that you might sometimes feel so locked into showing up that certain way to others that it becomes a false front. It actually becomes something that is leading to inauthentic experiences. And you might often find yourselves avoiding situations because you don't want to have to keep showing up that way. It's not how you feel all the time. There is more to who you are. So I want to challenge the idea that your strength has to be your social identity. Maybe it is thus far. Maybe you don't know who you are without it. But that is the exciting journey of life. It's not just a process of self-discovery, but it's a process of uncovery, of really allowing yourself to relax that mask and find out what's underneath it and sharing that with others. And doing so also inspires others to let down their masks and to share and show all the other dimensions of who they are. We are all so multifaceted. And if we can grow in our acceptance of that, that allows us to show up feeling more real, more connected internally, and more connected with the world around us. That allows us to feel seen because we're really seeing ourselves. So now that I've talked about what can happen when your strength becomes your struggle, I want to just share some closing advice. When we want to achieve balance, sometimes we have to relax some of our tendencies, some of our instincts and impulses that are interwoven into that strength. We just have to soften it a bit and identify what is the counter trait. If your strength is empathy, could the counter trait be self-preservation, self-love, self-care? Just lean into that a little bit. If your strength is independence, what would it look like to practice collaboration, surrender, to actually practice allowing others to come in and be supportive of you? If your strong suit is that you are a perfectionist, what would it look like to allow yourself to try something new, to embrace beginner's mind, and to just focus on progress, on just letting yourself be messy and playful instead of having to do things in a perfect way? So give yourself permission to lean into those areas that feel uncomfortable, because that might be where your happiness is hiding, in the growth and development of parts of yourself that never felt like they could truly exist, like they could truly come out and be seen. Give yourself permission to do that. Find safe opportunities. Look for safe people to do this with. Let others know what your intentions are and why, and allow yourself permission to grow. I think you'll find that more rewards will come from this, and over time you'll develop a more balanced picture of who you are. I just want to close by saying that as you give yourself permission to lean in to those underdeveloped parts of who you are not going to be losing your strengths. What you're really going to be doing is you're going to be nourishing yourself in a way that enriches those strengths. So if your strength is empathy, that's not going to go away. It's really going to allow you to be healthier so that you can continue to serve and support others from a deeper place of well-being. If your strength is independence, your independence isn't going to go away. You're going to still be independent, but you're going to also feel stronger knowing that you have times where you're able to experience partnership and trust and vulnerability and connection. If your strength is perfectionism, you're still going to be good at the things that you're good at, but you're also going to have times where you allow yourself to try new things and to take risks, to set new goals. So looking for these opportunities to have balance, it doesn't take away the strengths. It gives us a foundation that allows those strengths to thrive and allows us to experience deeper fulfillment in our day-to-day life. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you know someone else who might benefit, feel free to share it, and I look forward to seeing you next time.